Hi, my name is Jonathan Mattern. I am here to talk about a few topics such as culturally responsible teaching, supporting the needs of ELs in the classroom, and home and school connections. So for our first topic, culturally responsive training, there are a few questions that we were supposed to answer. So our first one is, what are cultural influences on teaching and learning? What is cultural competence and its role in the instruction of ELs? How can ELs' cultural values and beliefs be integrated appropriately in the context of teaching and learning? So I have a few influences on teaching, and that is the student background and biases either the student might have or yourself, the teacher, might have. So for the background, students' backgrounds affect learning because some students might not come from the best background. Some students might have preconceived notions of what they can do and what they can't do, and it's our job as teachers to prove them either right or wrong. So some students might have some preconceived mindsets on how they're going to do. Some students that I personally work with have a lot of negative preconceived notions because I work with mild to moderate disabilities of students, and they have been basically told their whole life that they can't do X, Y, and Z, and it's my job to help prove that they can. And then some biases that can affect learning, according to the NEA, some implicit bias can affect learning, and they say implicit bias can influence our actions, reactions, perceptions, and judgments. It can result in unfavorable treatment of our peers and students. What we know for sure is that no one is immune to suffering its effects, and discrimination and prejudice against people with disabilities are unfortunately quite common. For example, when we meet individuals with disabilities, we might see the individual's disability before we see the individual. We might not use identity first language and etiquette, and we simply might treat them differently than we would with other individuals. And that's a hard bias to have, and sometimes we got to break through and not have those biases. So another question is, what is the role of culture in student learning? How do school and classroom environment influence language acquisition, and what steps are necessary to create an inclusive environment? And culture definitely affects student learning in a tremendous way. If you have an environment that is positive and it is a good learning environment, you'll get learning. But if the students run the class and don't answer questions, just ignore you, do all these things, you're probably not gonna get much done. So having a good environment and a good plan goes a long way. Some strategies for supporting and celebrating cultural diversity. In my opinion, the biggest strategy is inclusion. Include some things that you in the lesson that you might not, so that you can find that maybe that student that's struggling could find a connection. So one thing that I've done is during February, during Black History Month, I would try to connect a famous African American to our unit and what we're learning, and so that I can maybe get hold of a student that I might not have if I didn't. So another thing is supporting EL needs in the classroom. And first question is, what are some strategies for responsiveness to the different strengths, needs, and identities to all EL students? So two strategies that I use are visuals and speech to text. And according to Edutopia, speech to text provides students that you should provide students with a voice-to-text option that can help learners who have some oral language but struggle with spelling and writing. Students can even dictate their text in the native language they need be, which is definitely helpful because if sometimes I've had students that don't speak any English and I might not speak their language, so Google Translate is a quick and easy way to get your point across and for them to respond back to you. It might not be the best translation, but it definitely works. And another option is visuals. They help EL learners like put a picture to a name. If I had, for example, with me I have a candle, and I'd say go get to an EL student. I could say go grab the candle and then show a picture of the candle, and they could be like, oh, this is a candle. Another importance of understanding social, emotional, and cultural needs of your students is just get to know your students first. So if you have some students that are sensitive to like loud noises, by getting to know them, you'll know that they probably won't work the best next to the loudest kid in the classroom. So getting to know your students is a really big step that you might have to take before you can even teach them. And finally, home and school connections. So how might family and community practices influence language and learning? So you learn most from other people when it comes to speaking. So if a student speaks one language at home, he's probably not going to be as accurate as that language in school. And some strategies to build and foster family and community is to have trust for the family to trust you that you have the best needs for your students, especially with their students with disabilities. They are really vulnerable and you are with them for most of the day, so you definitely need to have their best interest.